Good evening and welcome to Reach Lawyer Source. Reach Lawyer Source is a program of Reach Lawyer to discuss, debate, support issues and challenges faced by women at home, at workplace, and in the society. Untangled, Setting Her Free is a series of talks on the issues around domestic violence. Today's topic, a fistful of confidence. Welcome to Reach Lawyer Source. I would now like to hand over the session to our moderator, Ms. Tusharika Vig. Tusharika, over to you.
Thank you, Nitin. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to the entire audience present here, and I'm honored to welcome you all to the first session of the 8 days long talk show series of Untangled, Setting Her Free. The first topic of this week-long discussion and also the topic for today's discussion is a fistful of confidence. Yes, all that is required is a fistful of confidence. Number of studies say that every third woman faces some form of domestic or intimate partner violence. Whether one is a developed economy or a developing economy, a conservative country or a liberal country. Unfortunately, this is a reality that most women have to face every day. Those who are in abusive relationships, they keep losing themselves over a period of time. They lose their self-esteem, their right to dignity, their self-respect, and sometimes that reaches to such an extent that they begin to question oneself. Whether am I better than a chattel? Am I not entitled to love? Is she not entitled to a life beyond mere animal existence? Is she better than just being a slave? From subtle domination to ridicule, to abusive language, to physical, emotional, psychological, sexual, financial violence, the domestic abuse comes in various forms. Unfortunately, many a times a person is even unaware of that one is in a abusive relationship. What does it take to bring a change? Miss Ann Thomas says it takes a fistful of confidence. Ann Thomas, our speaker of the day, is one who heads corporate communications for India's largest integrated grain platform, Arya.ag. Anne started out as a journalist, television and print, produced television commercials, reality shows before teaching art and design students. She has worked closely with the management at design houses, institutions, startups, and media houses to design various internal processes, government organizations like BBMP and Nama Metro to look at art and activism in public spaces. Working with design education has helped us see the value of empathy, vulnerability, and disruption in making learning transformational. She works with educators to help them to lead engaging classrooms and students to inspire them to take up careers that stems from their strength and believes in a story and open communication. The world will change when we talk openly and instinctively about issues and most particularly uncomfortable issues. She also writes about her journey as a parent, raising her defiant and nonconformist sons, both of whom she hopes will grow into empathetic humanists. She has published a children's illustration book called Who Will I Be, encouraging kids to be who they can dream of. Now, without further ado, I'll call upon the woman herself, Ann Thomas. Ma'am, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Tusharika. It's a pleasure and honor to be here. I wish, the constant conversation that we have heard, right, even now that you talk about it, when we talk about abuse, when we talk about domestic violence, you say that 1 in 3 women, and it seems so black and white, somebody hits you, why are you in the relationship? If somebody doesn't love you enough or treat you the right way, why are you here with them? Why can't you just walk away? It's so simplistic in our head. But is it that easy? Is it always that black and white? Because when you look at relationships, there are 2 people involved. And most often, the abuser or the perpetrator is one absolutely normal looking person who has showered you with love. There is a concept called love bombing, right? In the first few months of the relationship or of the marriage, of any mutual understanding, it is this, he's the perfect version of what you had imagined to be. And slowly the conversations change. As you said, most often you don't even realize that you have stepped into this relationship where you are no longer yourself. And the very good way of asking yourself, I have a simple a simple way of knowing if you are in a relationship that makes you happy or the version that you need to be. And that is, are you happy to go back home? In the evening, when you leave work, or if you're home, or if your husband's going to come home, or if your spouse is going to come home, and if there is a fear that dominates you, if you are wondering, man, what am I going to say that is going to catch his attention, that is going to anger him, that is going to trigger him, if that is what worries you, if you're driving home and you're wondering, I hope I get it right tonight, it's a clear case of trauma. It's a clear case of abuse. It's a clear understanding, a clear picture that you are not in a marriage or a relationship that is all right to be in. You are abused. And how is it that simple? How is it that you do not see it? Because when it starts, it might be a slap on your face, or it might be a comment on your dress. Why are you wearing a bindi? Right? Why are you wearing a bindi? It looks so horrible on you. These earrings, they don't suit you. Look at that one. She looks so amazing. She can carry herself so well. It's this constant derogatory statements that get thrown around most unexpectedly. And the person who's making these comments is somebody you look up to, because that is the relationship that we have culturally included, right? The man of the house is someone you look up to. The man of the house is a reflection of your father, the head of the family. And that is what your expectation is when you go in. And no matter what you do, it doesn't seem to be right. It doesn't seem to be good enough. You are not doing just the right things to keep things all right, to keep things stable, to keep the family happy. It's the woman's responsibility in our system, in most systems. If a child is not behaving well, it's the mother's responsibility. If the son is behaving badly, it's of course the parenting that has gone wrong. And parent, of course, is the primary parent. The primary caregiver is most often the mother. If the husband is getting upset or behaving erratically, definitely the wife is not managing or able to handle him really well. So the constant conversation is that you are not doing enough. Financial abuse is very interesting to see, because it doesn't start off like, give me all your money, I need to take it all. If it's like that, if it's somebody standing in front of you with a gun, they are doing something wrong. It could be as simple as, this is a real life situation. I'm running the home, I have all the expenses, we should buy a home. It's going to be our space of security. Our child needs our own home. So since I am paying, why don't we take the loan in your name? So the loan comes from the wife's name. And as soon as the documentation days are coming close by, and my friend went through this, and my mother's going to get so upset, and let's put the name in my mother's name and my name. And suddenly, before she knew it, before she had any idea of what's going on, she was paying EMIs for a home. The down payment came from her dowry, and the home was in the name of the husband and the mother-in-law. And when things went haywire, there is no way that she can say, oh, where's my money? How do I prove that this is my money that has gone into the home? So it is a daily chopping off on your dignity, on your confidence, on your personality, on everything that is your vulnerability. They are intelligent human beings who are chipping away on your confidence, basing it on your vulnerabilities. So it's your self-esteem that has caused these open conversations, the moments of trust that you placed in another partner that is supposed to be your equal partner, and you told them that something is bothering you. And the moment and the chance that they get, they will turn around and they will use your vulnerabilities against you. Which means for me, it meant that I cry at the drop of a hat, which means that you are making such a big deal out of nothing. You always make a mound, of a mountain of a molehill. It was this constant derogation that what I felt was not true enough. Uh, is it possible to step away from such a situation? I believe it is, because I have gone through that path. In 2011, I had been told I had been cheated upon, but my son needed a father, and I stayed on in the relationship. Of course, I could make things right. I believed that I could make things right if only I do enough. If only I do just that extra, it would be all right. But over and over, slowly things started. I kept getting entangled. I love the use of the word, untangle, because it's very difficult to find the threads to pull yourself out of this trap that you have set for yourself. And I believe that I say the word you have set for yourself, not as saying that I blame myself, is that I didn't know how to untangle these situations. And when I come upon a stage like this and I tell women that it is possible, it's because we just need to believe. We just need to be brave. What is this fistful of confidence that I can offer you? I can offer you 5 alphabets, which is being brave. Brave would stand for to believe. Believe that you can make the change for your life. You know your reality. You can take control of your reality. How do you do that? You have to accept your circumstances, right? You have to understand where you are failing. You have to understand what your emotions are at that point of time. You're anxious, you're feeling helpless, you're feeling hopeless. You feel that a lot of the blame that is assigned is your responsibility, and you have to put all those emotions aside and say, no, this is where I am right now, but this is not where I want to be. This is not the reality that I want my child to grow up in. This is not the abuse that I want the cycle to continue, because tomorrow my son will be the perpetrator, another child will be me, and that is not what I want for them. So the first thing is to believe that you can make that change happen. And it's very, very difficult to believe that, because your inner voices, the voices that you are hearing on a constant, is that you are not enough. You're not good enough. You are incapable. You are the cause of all the problems. Whatever you're making out is not real. The gaslighting that you are going through is humongous, and I am not taking that away from you, but I want you to know that you have to believe that the only person that can pull you out of that situation, of that abuse, is you. No law, no community, no family can pull you out till you say, I am done. This is enough. This cannot go on anymore. You've taken that decision. You've said, yes, I want to step out. Now what? First things to understand is to recognize the patterns, recognize the behaviors that you are dealing with on a daily basis. It is to understand the intensity and the volatility that you are going through in terms of the partner. It is to understand, it's very easy if somebody was slapping you and there is a physical, I'm not saying that physical violence is okay, but I'm saying that it is easier for people to see bruises, right? But emotional abuse, the constant derogatory statements, the constant guilting, shaming, the words that are used against you, the humiliation that you have to be put through, the belittling, the emotional manipulation, a lot of it does not come out, right? Because these men are also successful people who are in the workplace. Very often they have a wonderful standing in society, and it's very difficult to say that it is not just you, it's actually them causing the problem. So the only way to get out of that situation is to recognize the patterns of behavior that you are being put through on a daily basis, and to understand that you are being baited and reeled into situations that you want to get out of, right? Once you recognize those patterns, accept the reality that you are in. I say that this is the most challenging part of it. Accepting that you are not loved the way that you wanted to be loved. Accepting that no matter what you do, it's never going to be good enough, because these expectations are impossible expectations. You are being set up to fail, so those are really, really hard realities. It is like looking at a mirror and saying, this is what I have gotten myself into, and it's heartbreaking. I think the biggest challenge for women who are trying to walk out or who are in that relationship is the grief. We think grief is just about somebody passing away and the pain that comes through. Grief is just the reality that everything around you has failed you, that whatever that you thought were your safety nets are not real, that the people around you are actually enablers to this kind of violence. The people that you trust most, which is your first family, they have their own agendas in this. They have their own perspectives. Nobody wants to say that, oh, my son has a problem or this marriage is a problem. Everybody likes to keep things under the wraps, because social standing is so important for us. And so थोड़ा सा adjust कर लो, थोड़ा सा रह लो, कोई बात नहीं, he'll be okay. He was just angry, he was just upset with you. You just calm him down, it will be fine. You just talk to him. I will talk to him. I will intervene, it will be all okay. And the next week, again, the pattern is going to come back. And I think accepting the reality, there is a psychological term which is called cognitive dissonance. It's easy when I say that this is a bad relationship, but this is my reality, and I'm in this marriage because my child needs a father, or the religion does not allow me to walk out. Culturally, I don't. These are very realistic expectations for yourself. You're defining why you're not walking away, and you're still making a choice. And there is nothing wrong in that choice. It's your choice to stay in an abusive marriage because you are doing it. But that's not what we are talking about. We're talking about cognitive dissonance. We're talking about this man is being so mean, so harsh, so hard on me, but he loves me. This is his way of showing love. This is the way. If only I would do something different. It's like the grapes are sour, right? It's not good enough, so I will walk away because I can't get it. It's like telling yourself different things, and you are still stuck because you have still unrealistic expectations. So I think to put away that cognitive dissonance and to accept that this is my reality, this is not going to go away. And the most important things, you cannot change somebody. We all go into a relationship thinking that this abusive man can be changed. His behavior can be changed. It is a time we realize that, no, I am not responsible for changing anybody else, and I cannot make that change, but I can take responsibility for my life. And the second most important thing, I am not responsible for him. It is not my fault. I might be here. I might have made bad decisions. Whatever be the reasons, it is not my fault that I am in this bad relationship, because it's very easy for the society and the people around us to keep telling us, that it is something that you have done. It is your lack as a wife, as a mother, as a parent. It is your fault. It is important for you to accept. 1, you cannot change your situation. 2, it is not your fault. And once you have accepted it, the most important situation there is to validate what you are feeling. As I said, you're being gaslighted every single day. Nobody knows your reality the way you do, right? And to accept your truth and your experiences in the way that you need to. There is no other version of that truth that is true, that is good enough. So you have to validate what you are going through, what you are feeling, the abuse that you're going through, the lack of confidence that you're feeling, the fear that you're feeling. Because let's get real. This fear is real, because these are not the mild versions alone. There is somebody who's tracking you, who has taken complete control of your life, where you're going, what time are you going, what are you wearing, who are you talking to, every single decision that you're making has to go through that person. Okay, and then you have to justify it to anybody else. It's very, very challenging. So the idea is to validate your experiences, and you have to do that on your own, because unfortunately, you are isolated in a way that cannot be explained. One of the clear patterns of any abusive behavior is the isolation that women go through in these abusive relationships. There will be subtle comments about your friends. Oh, why do you even hang out with these people? Your parents, they don't like me. They don't even approve of this relationship. I don't like going there anymore. Why do you have to keep going back to your parents? These slow changes that will happen and this dynamic where you are slowly alone in this home, where only you with the perpetrator and with the enablers of that violence are stuck. So the validation has to come from you, and you have to give that to yourself to be able to walk away. And the final step in being brave is to empower yourself, educate yourself. Okay, what is happening to me? What can I do to make things different? What are the laws that protect me? Is there a law that protects me? Even if I do, I remember walking into BT Venkatesh's office and I say, I don't know what to do. He's the father of my child and I have no idea how to protect myself. I am scared for my life. I'm scared for my child. And it's been a decade, and fear is so much a part of what we do and the choices that we make. And it is to empower yourself with possibilities. The restraining order that came to me to protect myself was one of the biggest steps that took me through the next few years, because I was being threatened by everybody else. I had physical threats. I had unfortunately for me, I had men's rights activists against me, and they were making discussions on their chat room, and they were like, let's go do a dharna outside her room. My best friend, also my spouse's best friend, calls me to say, what if he throws acid on your face tomorrow? Very casual, subtle statements that come up, and to just remind you of your place. Who are you? And you have to keep telling yourself, what is it that I can do for myself? And the biggest thing is to build your safety net, is to build people that validate your experiences, people that are not enablers, people away from the circle that you are in right now, and to build that safety net for yourself and that financial net. I think that's the most important thing. We are not taught enough about financial security. It took me a good 38 years before I have, for the first time, discussed and say, this salary that I earn is not good enough, or how will I manage my finances if I'm a single parent? How will I even run? Whatever it is to empower you. For me, it was the safety of a bag. I had a packed bag at all times, which had important documents. It had some money stashed away. It had everything stayed under my bed at any given point, which nobody knew about, because I knew I had to fly out at any given point of time. That was my safety net. Where will I go if something goes wrong? Because as I said, these threats are not unrealistic. It can happen at any given point of time, and we know that it's not easy for you to walk away from an abusive person, because they are volatile. The reactions that they might give is unexpected. 15% of the people who actually pass away in some abuse are people who intervened, right? So there is a real possibility of loss of life, but those are the challenges. Right? Those are the challenges, and nothing can stop a brave woman who has decided, because she's on her shoulder carrying the entire weight of responsibility of her life, her family, of this abusive man. So is she not capable? Of course she's capable. Okay, she is capable of doing far more than anybody else can create. And I believe that as women, we have that in us to just fight any situation if we can go and stand up and be brave enough to walk away from that situation. And then is the toolkit, understand that I love Dr. Ramani, who gives me this toolkit, which is called DEEP, which says, don't engage, right? It says, don't defend, because there is no point in trying to argue with somebody who's abusive. They will always shift the blame back to you. Don't engage, because they will bait you constantly. They are far better at arguing, and you will somehow become the guilty one. Don't explain yourself, because there is no explanation. Nothing that you say can do it right. Nothing that you do can change your situation. You just have to walk away, and don't personalize. So the DEEP is a very powerful tool at any situation. If you are not in a possibility to walk away from abusive man, how do you constantly handle that situation? DEEP will help you through that. Don't personalize the statements. Don't take it in. He's saying you're not looking good enough. That's fair enough. That's your call. I am who I am. The constant validation from your voice will give you that opportunity to say, I can get through this. So whatever your choice, the fistful of confidence comes from being brave, which is to believe that you can do it, to recognize the patterns, to accept your reality, to validate who you're feeling, and to educate yourself and empower yourself to walk away no matter what the circumstances. I think that's it from me. Any questions?
Thank you so much, ma'am. We're totally enlightened to hear your experience as well as your insights on the topic. And before I get on to the questions, I just want you to elaborate on the concept of gaslighting for our audience. That concept is very misconstrued, and there are a lot of misconceptions about the topic as such. So, if you can elaborate on gaslighting, it will be great for the audience.
I'll give you a personal experience. So for me, my husband was cheating on me with my cousin sister. And they were in my own home, and she was my best friend. And when things started feeling amiss, or some things were crossing boundaries, and I would say, I'm not very comfortable with this. And they would turn around and say, you're making all this stuff up. Nothing is true. What are you saying? Ask this person and ask that person. That's not true. When you're constantly being told that what you are feeling and thinking is incorrect, okay, what you are saying is absolutely made up, you distort the truth in such a way that it doesn't seem real, and everything that you are feeling is diminished and concocted in a way that you don't trust your own reality. That's gaslighting, right? When you are being abused, you're losing, your phone is being tracked, and you say, how is it that you know that I am here right now? Okay. And immediately it will be, you are watching too many serials, you are watching too many things. Who comes up with these ideas? It's this constant idea that what you are saying is not true, what your reality is not true. These are all made up things. You're making up versions, and whatever everybody else is saying is far more right, and that is the reality, and you must accept that reality, so that you're constantly in self-doubt and never believing yourself.
Yeah, that's definitely a very simple explanation, and I hope the audience has understood that. So I'd just like to remind the audience, if you guys have any questions to ask Miss Ann Thomas, then you can put it in the chat box and we'll read it out. So, ma'am, I have a question for you. So, we've all heard while growing up from our parents that marriage is a compromise. Some things here and there go wrong, and it's fine. So, and especially considering how uneducated most of our women of India are, or even if they're educated, they're listening to all these ideas put in their heads through families and friends and even their peers who are probably the same education level, and things are brushed under the carpet, like you said, and things are overly normalized. So in such a situation, when all this is considered a compromise, how do you think one can recognize that there is a problem?
Every relationship, I'm not coming here with any unexpected, unrealistic expectations, right? In a marriage, there are adjustments, because there are two different individuals. There are two different individuals who have been raised on different value systems, different cultures, different ideas. So when you come in with your personal experiences, you have to make that adjustment. But it's a simple thing. When two people make adjustments together, then that's a compromise. That's an adjustment. That's a relationship, right? I'm married again, and I'm married to a wonderful man who, like, when we talk about finances, right? For example, I know exactly what he earns. He knows exactly what I earn. We know what is going into the common funds, what are going to be used otherwise. It's a constant conversation. There are so many issues. The way my child eats, doesn't eat. There are constant expectations of who is fulfilling what role. So adjustment is when I say that I am uncomfortable doing something, which is even feeding my dog, right? I'm very sensitive with smell. So I say, I don't enjoy feeding my dog Shia her food. Can you take care of it? Which means that he will take care of it, right? It's this constant open communication, right? He's not saying, oh, but you have to take it all up. Now, the unrealistic expectation is when one person is constantly making all the adjustments, right? Now, I understand where you come from culturally, right? Because abuse itself or physical violence is so normal in our system, right? बच्चा नहीं खा रहा, एक थप्पड़ लगा दो, खा लेगा, right? You just feed him, just give him just scare them into eating, just scare them into doing things. Obedience is such an expected conversation in schools. You're a child, you will not talk back to the teacher. That is a clear definition. Now, that is where we are going in terms of cultural expectations. And especially as a woman, then you need to keep quiet. If you are talking back, you are not doing right by your community. That's not how a Christian woman will speak. That is not how a good bahu speaks. That those are the expectations. I happened to say shut up once to my husband. It became a full-blown family issue, right? Because I didn't know my place. And please remember, this guy was somebody I knew for a very long time. He was also a dear friend, except that this shut up, took away everything that I ever did for that relationship. Now, I'm saying these are small things at that point of time, but these are big alerts, right? These are red flags that you need to watch out for. Who is adjusting and how much do you adjust? You have to create clear boundaries. I think we need to teach our children as young as possible to create boundaries, right? What is okay, what is not okay? What touch is all right, what touch is not all right? How much information can I share with somebody and how much information should I not share with somebody? Constantly creating those boundaries. We are told we must not create boundaries for ourselves because we are the giving tree. As daughters of the house, we need to sacrifice. As wives, we need to sacrifice. Your child likes the good food. You always ensure that everybody else gets food before you do, right? These are the values that we are so proud about. There's this recent Amazon ad which said that the bahu is buying so many things on Amazon, but the moment she's buying things and people are opening up gifts for everybody else, it's perfectly all right. We are the nurturing souls, right? As long as you're not spending on yourself or thinking about yourself, then the moment you think about yourself, you're not a good human being. We have to instead teach ourselves how to create those boundaries. So as I said, as a culture, as a community, we are okay with being hit. So if पहले पापा मारते थे, अभी हस्बैंड मारेगा, ओके मारेगा तो ठीक है, इट्स ऑल राइट, हम सब ने मार खाया है. So that is the conversation that we need to break away from. And why do you have to walk away from a relationship? Only if somebody beats you up, right? How do you feel in that person? What about your dignity as a human being, your aspirations, your needs, what you want to do in your life, the jobs that you take? Okay, are you going to keep following your husband because he has a job? Or what about you wanting to pursue your career as a media person? If you want to choose and you have to take up a role which involves a lot of travel, is that all right? But what about your child? I would say put those conversations aside, put all these lenses aside and speak to yourself. What are your aspirations? This is something we never teach our girls. We never teach our children to be comfortable being alone. We train them to go from a child to go to college and then to get into into a family and become a part of that. When will they be comfortable with being alone? There is so much shame in just going and walking and watching a movie on your own. What? You're going alone? You're going to eat a meal alone? Alone is a bad word for us, right? Because we are constantly surrounded with people. And when things fall apart, we have no idea how to deal with alone. And unfortunately, as a parent, motherhood is one of the loneliest periods. The first year of just taking care of a child after delivery through the nights, taking care of them is extremely lonely. You're sitting up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and you cannot meet the people that you want to meet. You cannot have those conversations. Then you have the abusive people around you who are beating you up for simple coffee is not hot enough, or the food is not ready, or you've made only this, invalidating who you are constantly. So I think the important part is to develop those boundaries. What is my aspiration? What is it that I want from my life? And how far can you adjust? And is the person next to you willing to have an open conversation about everything, about anything uncomfortable, whether it's finances, whether it's sex, whether it's how many children you want, how many children you don't want. I do not want to have this child because I don't want to go through the pain. Very valid conversation, right? The choice of whether you want to have a child or not, is that yours or is that the family's? Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that marriage is, it's so individualistic that you don't take care of the family. That's not the point. The family is a unit and everybody does their part. And when everybody does their part, then the balance is just perfect. And I know that because I've lived both sides of that spectrum. So
I definitely agree with you, ma'am, and thank you for answering that question at such a depth length, which obviously the audience will definitely appreciate. So, I have a question. Looking at the theme of today, which is a fistful of confidence, we know that it takes that one courage or that one step out of the abusive household or intimate relationship to start the process of healing. And like you said, that stage of I'm done and no more of abuse from now on. But I think it's easier said than done. So what in your opinion or your experience is that trigger point for a woman, or that stage in a relationship where she actually feels that now I can't, now it's my turn to be my individual self and regain my dignity? And does this confidence that we're talking about, does it always come internally, or does someone else has to, like someone else from the external world needs to make you realize, or maybe it's a mix of both?
I wish it was simple as one step, right? For me, as I said, it was multiple blows, one after the other. It was multiple blows to the point that I knew that if I did not get out of this marriage, I would not survive. My child would not survive. I think the final blow was my ex throwing hot water on my child's face. And then I realized that this is beyond just me. This is my child. And this is not what I want to go into. And please don't mistake me where I say these are personal experiences, and everyone's experience is so different, yet so similar, right? So what is that one trigger point? There need not be, the final conversation might just be, it might be the final straw on the back, or on the camel's back, which breaks it. So it is constantly living in fear, and you realize, we were talking about how you do not recognize suddenly the person in front of you who has gone through an abusive relationship. You see that amongst so many women around you. My best friend met me, and I was expecting at that point of time, and she turned around and said, much later, she tells me, and I had no idea who this human being in front of me was. You had lost your voice, you had lost your confidence, you had lost everything. So is it one thing? No, but it really helps to have a community around you who are doing a reality check. So I always tell this as a learning from my first marriage, for women. It's easy for women to lose out on relationships because you follow into a family, you take up the husband's family, and it's great to do that. You make new friends, but to keep in touch with your people, your friends, your family is very important, because they know who you are and how you have grown. And they can kind of shine light on the changes that are happening very subtly or very suddenly, and they can be your reality check. They can be the mirror in your face and saying, uh, this is something is not right. And it's very important to have those circle of friends around you who will say that something is amiss. Now, I do also realize that in terms of relationships, it's very easy to say, I know something is wrong. I've told her 100 times she's not walking out of the relationship, and to blame the woman again for not walking out of the relationship. Now, the reasons could be hundreds. Maybe she's not realizing it. Maybe the expectations that she set of herself are completely different. But the idea is to be able to say, instead of saying something is wrong with that guy, is to pull out on experiences or certain situations that you're watching. He could have reacted a little more kinder. He could have been nice about it. He could have let it go. If you give narratives which are not general, right? Because when you attack somebody's spouse, they are defending themselves. They are defending their choice of who they are with, of the marriage, of the relationship, of your family. It's a very, very personal, personal choice that you are attacking. And instead of making them feel attacked, if you comment on certain situations, right? Rather than, I wish that guy handled it differently. I wish he treated you better in this situation. I didn't like the way he talked to you right now. Or you call out that person. Now, there's a challenge with you calling out somebody who's abusive, because then the chat or opportunity of you meeting that friend is very rare, because they will create so many hurdles for you to have that conversation with your friend again. We've all been that, right? As I said, isolation is a very crucial part of abusive relationships. So it may not be one personal thing, but I think it is a series of things, and it's a series of conversations, and this sense of this fear that I cannot survive anymore, and how much we push ourselves into that relationship is a call that is very personal. I have a friend who walked away from a relationship simply because she was not happy. And I have such respect for that woman, because she knew she was unhappy and she had an opportunity to get better. I went through the entire process, and I stayed in this relationship for so long. And I'm happy I did that, because today I know that there's nothing more that I could have done before I walked out of that relationship and saved myself. So, whichever end of the spectrum you are, it's a very, very personal choice. And as a community, it is our responsibility to stop being enablers for violence, to stop being enablers for anything that's abusive, that crosses the line of dignity. It's the jokes that demean a woman. It's the marriage jokes that you constantly hear, बीवी से डरता है, or whatever those connotations that you constantly hear. It's about telling yourself, these are not acceptable anymore, and this is not okay. And appreciate your wife a little bit, appreciate your partner a little bit. I'm not going to be gendered. 1 in 9 men also suffer abuse. And as I said, it's not only the husband that is the perpetrator. Sometimes it's the parents. We have narcissistic parents who abuse their children, so that, and those are the ones that go and, get into these relationships because the inner voice is constantly full of shame. It's constantly like, I am not good enough. And then they become victims. They're easy prey for anything that is abusive around. So we just need to keep watching out and saying, no, hitting your child is not all right. Talking to me is not like that, is not all right. Recently, my son turned around and called out his teacher for being sexist. Now, it is unacceptable to say that to a teacher, and he understands that. But at the end of the day, when you're making gendered statements to a child, saying that you're not behaving in a gender appropriate manner because you're scared of a spider, or your hair is too long or short, then you are behaving in that manner. And it's our job, whether you're a child, whether you're an adult, you're somebody in around, is to just call out these aspects. We just need voices which are saying, this is not all right, step back. I think that's the way to go forward.
We've received one question in my personal chat box, which says women without exposure get influenced by content posted on TV serials, which portray the most horrendous thing. They understand their marital obligations in a different way. They feel that it is their duty to be oppressed and obey their husbands or in laws and relatives, etc. How do you think a change can be brought in this aspect?
Uh, it's I wish it was media was not reflecting what is the reality. I wish it wasn't. When my life unfolded and when we look back to it, it was exactly like a K serial drama. And I think we've had a lot of laugh about it 10 years later, saying that, it was a K series that you saw on television. There were, but unrealistic expectations don't just come from the media. Those are our homes, right? Recently, there was this comment that happened to come into my inbox where even Shweta Bachchan said that I am expected to pick up the glasses or feed the guests. Now, it doesn't matter whose child you are. If you're a daughter, then you take care of the child, you take care of the guests, while the son will speak and take care of whoever's sitting in front and have those conversations. We have very gendered norms in the roles that we play. If a father is changing the diapers, what a wonderful man. He's helping his wife. He's a parent. I am very, very unsure whether we are blaming the media for the kind of cultural norms that we have or the gender norms that we have, or it is vice versa, or it's a combination of both, right? What was once scared to be talked about in terms of regionalism or religious disparity is now an open conversation. Anybody can comment on anybody's religion at any given point of time. And those are the kind of quality television serials that you are seeing right now. It is a reflection of the society that you live in. So the only way we make that change is to talk about these things, right? Is to talk about things very openly and to make it okay for a child to say, this is not all right. I was driving past and I was getting very upset, and the traffic, everybody was punching me. And my 4-year-old child saw me screaming at this person who was just jamming me. And I said, what the hell? And he's like, Mama, you're being very rude. And that's the reality, right? I can say it's none of your business and keep quiet. You don't have this is not how you talk to your parent, which is what we usually would do, right? But instead, if we allow for these conversations where a child calls you out constantly, then you are making a safer space for your daughters to go out. When you are commenting on somebody else's clothes, whether the 1-inch length of a skirt, which was the rule of our school, it has to be 1 inch above the knee or below the knee, you are opening it up for unnecessary conversation. The idea is about creating a society where choice is deliberate. You as an individual have a choice on what you eat, what you wear, who you want to be with, what you want to educate yourself, whether you want to go to school, whether you don't want to go to school, whether you want to go to college, whether you want to start up, whether you want to, have a child, not have a child. Your choice is valid. And that's about it. And that constant conversation is what we need to create a safer space. And a daughter says, I want to walk out of this marriage because I'm unhappy. That should be good enough. No questions asked. Come home if you want to. Don't come home if you don't want to, right? When I wanted to get separated, my parents thought it was safer for me to be back home with them. But it was important for me to stand here and to fight my battles and get out of it before I go back home. And that was a choice I made. And that is the respect that we want for every human being, right? To make the choices that they want and to be allowed the space to make that choice. If they're making a mistake, make that mistake, learn from your mistake, accept your mistake, walk away, right? But learn from them. So I think it's far-fetched when we say that the media is causing it. It's both ways. It's both ways.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So, like we know that even in academic writing and mainstream media, we see the word victim being used with domestic violence. and even in official big handles of big social media pages, or by political figures also, the word victim is used not just in social media but in the law as well.
Yes.
But I do realize that a woman is the victim when she's suffering silently, and there's a process of transformation from a victim to a survivor. So can you elaborate on how that process can be like, or how can a woman be made a survivor from a victim? Because obviously we don't want victims around in the country, we want them to be empowered. So can you elaborate on the
So
process?
the word victim has such a negative connotation, right? It means that you are helpless. You need to be saved. You need, you are in a hopeless scenario and somebody else needs to pull you out. Now, unfortunately or fortunately, the fact for a domestic violence for domestic violence, most often they are actually built into a situation of helplessness and hopelessness. It is a deliberate, strategic process where you go from being an independent, smart woman. And again, I want to break all notions that, you have to be the back and beyond of a village to be beaten up by your husband. Or to be abused sexually, financially. I lived in a wonderful high-rise building in Kolkata, and I knew women who didn't have their own bank accounts because no, you're not given the permission to have a bank account, to have a PAN card. These are all choices somebody else makes for you. So it's not about who you are or what family you come from or how educated you are. Being this helplessness or hopelessness or the state of victimhood is most often a very strategic process for the perpetrator. And even if you look at all the studies, as you say, academic research or psychological workshops, it's always working towards how to help the perpetrator rather than how to help the victim. There are far fewer resources for the victim than which is actually a waste of resources, because if you do research and you study about it, you know that most often it is pervasive. You are not going to be able to change a lot of people, and we know that you cannot change an abusive person into suddenly this wonderful person, and it has nothing to do with who that person is with. If he's abusive to Sharika, he's going to be abusive to Anne, he's going to be abusive with Agarki. It's just that the how it comes across will be different. So coming back, from travel to victim to survivor is a very long journey. It is not an easy one. As I said, the choice to stay and the choice to leave is at the end of the day with the woman. And as long as it's a choice she makes, that's all that matters. What we do know is to create situations or create circumstances that when she's ready to walk out, and no matter how much money she has in a bank account or how difficult custody is, we as a society enable that process rather than enable the violent human being to keep her in the state of locked up, zero option isolation mode that they are in. So to build survivors, to build people who can walk away, we need to be able to have processes in place. Now, the system, we always have this argument that the laws are pro-women, right? There are so many options, but the system is not. When you go to a policeman and you say, but I'm a domestic violence victim, he turns around and says, but madam, aap to padhi likhi hain, aapke saath kaise ho sakta hai? That's the system, right? They do not believe you. And we have a constant space of people don't believe you, and that's the first change that we can get. If somebody turns around and says that I am walking away, because as such, walking away is so difficult. We have created a system where the society condemns walking away, the family condemns walking away, the culture does not allow walking away, and then there is the responsibility. If there is a child in the picture, then that makes it even more difficult. And so if we build in systems which are also as progressive as the laws, where a policeman says you're abused, okay, let me put it down, let me help you how to walk through the process and take you through those processes easily, from the police to the people that you engage with at the courtroom. If you have spaces where a woman can just speak and not be judged, if you have short hair, if you have long hair, you're a working woman, whether you're not working woman, the way you talk, the way there's so many layers of these unexpected settings that you have to dance through, right? I think if we can create that safety net where a woman can walk away and say that I need to feel secure, I'm afraid, I am scared, I don't have money, I don't know how to walk away, and I can get a loan without any guarantor right now because I need to just find a safe space to live in. I think that's what we are supposed to be creating these as a community. For example, Reach Law's idea where we say that if you need legal services, you write to us, we will give you the legal services and tell you the steps that need to go. It is so difficult to find a lawyer who listens to you with an idea that yes, we need to protect you, right? I have had so many encounters with lawyers where I have to say that I know he's the father, but my child is not safe with them, right? My child's security matters. And no, but he's the father. You cannot take that away. Those conversations where we are building this network of people who care enough to say that, yes, somebody wants to walk away, wants to journey from being a victim, from the state of helplessness, and to take being brave and taking the power and the mutti full of confidence. How will she get that unless you are saying that if this man walks into my workplace and nobody will let him come in, he will not dare to walk in, okay, and there will be no shame associated with somebody coming to threaten you at your workplace, that is a safe space for a woman to work in, right? Because that's one of the other things to do. If a woman is working, you threaten her workspace, you embarrass her, you shame her, and then the respect that she has at work. But no, if you have a workplace which says that, bring it on, we are here to take care of you, I think that itself will change the conversation so much more.
Definitely, I totally resonate with that. Being a law student, what we study in law in classes and what the reality is miles apart. And even the system, judicial system, or the network of lawyers is not making the entire thing any better, unfortunately. But we have to attempt to go through the same process and try to change the law by our individual attempts each day. And hopefully one day it gets better. So Gitanjali has asked a question in the chat box. What if the child is brainwashed that the abusive father is actually exhibiting the normal behavior of any father, that he is disciplining the child and not being emotionally and verbally harsh?
This is our everyday, right? We don't we are not a society that creates boundaries. So if your child father hits you, it's out of love. If somebody hits you to correct you, that is love. If you are told or spoken to harshly, it is your love. And I'm not saying that I'm or anybody else is very different, right? These are the voices in our heads. These are the conversations that constantly happen, where you have to say that this is not all right, or this is okay, I'm too tired. And it's easier to react rather than to respond to situations. So what if the child is brainwashed? It is a normal system. I went into court and I said this man is alcoholic, and the mediator in the mediation room said sab peete hain. Okay, there's a difference between an alcoholic, he's not functioning, versus he's somebody who's having a drink over conversation. If that drink is going to turn around and ensure that the wife is going to get beaten up later in the night, if the child is going to be physically trashed because he was too angry to handle his emotions, then that is abuse. There is no doubt about it, right? And the only thing that you have to do as a parent for a child is to protect them. It is your responsibility to protect them, and you will do anything and everything possible to not justify this. I think my child helped me made me stay in the relationship when I was 1 year into the marriage and I was already pregnant. And I stayed in the relationship, though it was terrible, because the child needs a father, but he was also the reason I walked away, because that is not what we want. There is no amount of brainwashing that can happen. If you know that something is not right for your child, it's your responsibility to find the safe space for your child. Your home needs to be a safe space, no matter what the situation is, no matter who is the perpetrator, whether it's your father, whether it's your husband, whether it's his father or uncle or anybody. If somebody is perpetrating violence against the child, it is not love. We have to redefine what love is and what relationships are, and we have to constantly have these conversations so that our children are not looking up to abusive relationships and thinking that is love. Simple, straight. It is not okay. We walk away from that relationship. We take the child away from that relationship.
So I have one last question. So throughout your enlightening speech, you talked about different instances of psychological abuse. And we know that even if there's physical abuse, it's most often coupled with emotional and psychological manipulation, gaslighting, like you mentioned. So, and as a person who has studied a basic level of psychology in a +2, I have a question that, do you think that a professional counseling or therapy session or professional mental health support is essential or will change the situation to a intense level? Or do you think that without any professional mental health support also, there some women can make it and they can continue with their healing process?
It's a very, very relevant question in today's world. Women who have been through abuse, or anybody who has been through abuse, a child, a man, anybody who has been through abuse needs emotional support. There is a series of as I said, it is engineered to keep them in those relationships where it's strategically played with them, where they are belittled constantly, they are shamed constantly, they are guilted for things that are beyond them. They believe that they are not good enough to be in that relationship. It is all their fault. There is so much self-blame involved. And by the time the person is somehow coming to step out of that relationship, their confidence or their self-esteem has eroded completely and deeply. So I thought I could survive it. I started therapy a year ago, and I have gone so far ahead because the therapy helped me. And that is my personal experience, because you do not realize how much you carry and for how long that you carry the burden of it. Panic attacks are a very common outcome of these relationships. Even if you step out of it, the constant fear, you're always looking behind, saying, oh, what's going to happen right now? And even if you get a divorce and if you get separated, it doesn't end there. I know that it doesn't end there for so many people. Getting a divorce itself is a long travel from stepping away to finally getting free. And if there is a child in the picture, there is no getting free. I still am answerable to some level to my ex-in-laws, and the psychological play is non-stop, where you are threatened subtly, and in loud ways, and you're constantly living in fear. So therapy is very, very essential to help these women. Along with therapy, or it is also the safety net. I keep telling everybody, build your safety nets, people who you can turn around and who you can speak to and who will just sit and listen. Empathy is such an important part of it, because you're not trying to solve somebody's problem. You're saying it is all right. You are there with them. You will take them through this process. And to move from a situation of fear to living confidently and bravely is a journey that somebody cannot do it alone. A child is not raised alone. A child is raised with a village. You need a village to carry that child forward. And that's the same for every individual. We need a good support system. We need a good legal system. We need a good workplace. We need safer spaces. We need safer roads. We need families that understand that, these triggers are, you don't even realize what triggers you. For somebody who's gone through physical violence, a touch in the same space, because the body remembers. They say the body remembers much more than the mind does. So some of the reactions to abuse, especially sexual abuse, continues for such long time. And to understand that trauma is real, and it impacts your daily lives, your daily conversations. There are women who are afraid to talk when there is a new person in the room because you don't know how you're going to be judged. The impact is just unacceptable and unimaginable, to say that, and to expect anybody to go through that alone is a big ask of them. Have many women survived? Unfortunately, limited services in India and mental health access and how expensive it is. Yes, women have to find answers, and a great support system will help. But if you have the choice to get therapy, please do. I have done it for a year and it has helped me tremendously.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for answering all my questions and the audience's questions so patiently and in such a great depth. I'm personally extremely inspired, and I hope the audience is inspired as well by your empowering journey. And I think we have a lot to take away from this session today, and that's a great thing for the first talk of the entire 8 days talk show series for celebrating Women's Day this year. So with this, I'll just call upon Mr. B.T. Venkatesh, who is the founder of Reach Lawyer and who is also the person behind the initiative of Reach Lawyer Source. So, sir, over to you.
Very good evening. It has been such a wonderful talk by Anne. Thank you, Anne, for making it so beautiful. The very aspect, the subject of domestic violence. Yes, a fistful of confidence. That's the most important thing that every woman needs. In fact, we at Reach Lawyer have been always being accused of being feminists. You say that you wear glasses, you look at men with a fair degree of bias, but we have little option on that, given the fact that every third woman in this country faces in one form or other form of domestic violence. That there are million cases of severe cruelty leading to death that happens. Who has worked as state public prosecutor had seen on an everyday basis a wife being burnt, a wife being pushed to commit suicide, a wife driven to madness, a wife who is in extreme difficult conditions, financially, health-wise, you name it. And when you see this kind of situation, more particularly from an intimate partner violence or marital violence or domestic violence, whichever the kind of nomenclature you give, we found that there was one essential thing, and that aspect is that she needs someone to listen to her story. In fact, in all these decades of work that we have done, we have come to believe very clearly, our firm belief is that women who are in such situations need someone to listen to, someone who can listen to them, someone who can tell them that, okay, let me know what exactly your issue is. Half the job is done. That woman will have some confidence that there is validation. In fact, thanks, Anne, for that. Validation is one of the most important aspect. What I'm going through is not correct, is something that woman should be in a position to explain. Therefore, there is a need for listeners. We found that there is a great need for listeners. We found that, as Anne was telling, that great need for counselors. We need large number of counselors, and we also need lawyers who have that kind of empathy towards these issues. We come across all these challenges, and women who are in such situation, many a time are given one solution: go to a lawyer, fight a litigation. Is that the end? Many a time it does not happen. Many times it boomerangs. Many times she faces more challenges with the litigation rather than taking some amount of counseling and someone to share her challenges with, her issues with. I think that's something which is very important. Reach Lawyer Soj is an initiative of Reach Lawyer, which we have decided that this is exclusively in respect of women's issues. A women's life, whether at home, whether at workplace, or in the society, is that of an equal. She forms half the population of this world. Why she is in such a situation? First of all, why are we talking this kind of language, this kind of subjects, which should not have been the case? That we are talking on these subjects demonstrates that the entire societal understanding of women, her role, her rights is totally skewed. I think that's where Reach Lawyer Soj believes is that we need to have a dialogue. Reach Lawyer Soj is a place to discuss. Reach Lawyer Soj is a place where you can explain what your situation is. So therefore, we have opened it up. We have number of persons, number of very, very excellent friends like Ann Thomas, who you are going to meet good number of them in these 8 days. There are many, many, many more who are part of our Reach Lawyer Soj, who are willing to listen, who have that amount of experience, expertise. They are professionals, they are doctors, they are lawyers, they are activists, they are journalists, they are academics, they are students. The kind of family Reach Lawyer is, it's made up of all these persons who are committed to the rights. Reach Lawyer Soj is an initiative, a program of Reach Lawyer exclusively for rights of women. You have an issue, you have a challenge, you have looking for counseling, you're looking for an answer, you're looking at least someone to listen to your issue, just write to askreachlawyer@gmail.com. That mail ID is on the banner. So when we see this, when we started this initiative, we said that yes, we start from 1st March to 8th March, we'll have a discussion and engage in discussion. One crucial aspect, one challenging aspect which women face at family, at home, which don't explain, which they silently suffer years on end. At Reach Lawyer, we have seen someone, a wife of a security guard to a vice president of a software company. All of them have come to us. All of them have similar stories to tell of difficulty, of challenges, of misery. It's very difficult. They can't even express their condition to anyone else. You do not know how difficult it is when someone walks into a lawyer's office, opens up, that she has not shared with her parents, that she has not shared with her friends, that she has not shared with everyone she knows. She is sharing with some lawyer who is absolute stranger. And how difficult it is to share, how guarded she is. In fact, in our experience, it has been a big challenge because we always found that the women don't explain. It had to give them so much of time to listen to them. Then they slowly open up. There is a need. Therefore, we find that there is a necessity that we need to build a team of listeners. There is a necessity that we need to build a team of counselors. There is a necessity to build a team of persons who are going to provide you some legal advice. We have started with providing some legal advice. We try to listen to you. We try to write about this thing. So you have challenges, issues. You have to do only one thing. Write that issue and mail it to us at askreachlawyer@gmail.com. We will respond. This is something which is an absolute need of the hour. I have seen that the woman, today when we see Ann Thomas, she has made it. There are many more who has come to Reach Lawyer, many more who have been extremely successful. I have seen that women given an opportunity, have virtually no limit that they can achieve one of the finest things. We have seen an employee who was working in a travel agency being now an entrepreneur, running a big employing 10 to 12% in a travel agency and doing a great business. We have seen a person who is in very difficult condition, unlettered, or one who has been academically very poor. Today they are working as trainers. Today they are working as someone, a senior HR manager in a very big software company, a globetrotter now. It's possible. We have seen this kind of change. As Anne says, all that is required is fistful of confidence. If we can see that, if each one of this woman gets that, I think we can see a change in this particular life, in her life. A change in a woman's life is not just her own. She actually brings that warmth to everyone around her. That is the beauty of it. That is the wonderful aspect of it. We have seen such wonderful stories. We would be keeping you informed about all the kind of work and success that we have seen in our life and the kind of success that women have seen in their lives. We have been part of that process. We have been part of the journey. Rich Lawyer Shows is an extension of journey. We're expanding it. We have a number of lawyers here across India. We have a number of students across India. We have great journalists who are part of us. We have great academics, scholars, counselors, thinkers, activists who are part of this. This initiative is so important that we wish to open it up for everyone. You have an issue, if you're a woman, you are in challenge, you're facing such challenges, you're facing issues of domestic violence, you just write to askreachlawyer@gmail.com. Thank you.
So this
Usha.
brings us to the end of the session. And it was indeed an completely insightful session. And I am so honored that I got an opportunity to moderate today's session and have a conversation with Miss Anne Thomas. And now I'll just request everyone to turn their cameras on so that we can take a picture of the entire screen. And thank you to all the audience members who were there throughout this session. You guys stayed till the end, and it means a lot to the entire team of Reach Lawyer.
It's an absolute pleasure and honor. Thank you so much for having me. BT Venkatesh has seen me through the 10 years of where I came in frantically. And I know it's possible for every woman or for every person who is going through domestic violence to come out of it if they have the right support, and we are the right support for them. Thank you so much for having me.
Mamta, have you taken the picture? Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Anne. Such a joy.
Thank you all. Bye-bye. Good night.